Hey everybody. I went to my storage unit earlier this weekend and I found a box of some of my old notebooks they were full of like old poems I'd written, bits of short stories, jokes from back when I used to do stand up a lot. And I found a notebook titled Nuclear Peace, which is a short story that I started to write with a old friend of mine a few years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago. It was pretty much more in detail about the day to day life, about Sesame Street characters, and having more, you know, 9 to 5 kind of jobs, 9 to 5 kind of lives, stuff like that. And it's a partial story. The chapters are real short. There's like 3 chapters in it, and it's a real rough draft of what had been written of the story. Um, actually spent a few minutes reading over it a little bit earlier. Not gonna lie, it's kind of shit, but it's pretty much the idea of the story was that there's a variation of characters and how they all work kind of the same job, and they some of them are kids of other characters and stuff like that, and a couple of the characters are in a father-son relationship, and the father works at a nuclear plant, and eventually in the story there's a there's a radioactive meltdown. Things go on and on. I can't remember all the details of the story because like I said, we stopped working on writing it like 5 years ago, so I can't remember exactly all the details that were going to go into the story. But I decided, hey, it'd be kind of cool to read some of this story while playing my Canjo a little bit as background. And this is going to be kind of a rough scenario, so don't expect real perfection out of this. I may add on to the story later, start working on rewriting what I have, and you know touching up on a few of the roughest spots, whatnot. But I'm going to play my Canjo a little bit and read a couple sections. I'm going to read chapter 1, which is like a page and a half long, and then I'm going to read part of chapter 3. So, here we go. Sorry if this is kind of rough. Gonna have to improvise the works. This is also a little bit of a project to help me reestablish what's gonna happen with the story, because it's something I'll actually want to work on rewriting. So, where's my? There it is. I just had the motherfucker, and I already forgot. Little pick here. It was a beautiful evening, just as every other day had been. Today could be described as the same way. Perfect. The bakery was pumping out bread, fresh bread, and business was booming. Not business as most of us know it, though. The ingredients used for the bread and pastries were grown by the people who made them. Completely natural and completely delicious. Better yet, they gave the food out for free. This was a community of love and free trade. Create your own trade and be with your own. A minimalistic place of true peace. Everyone on Sesame Street greeted each other with a smile, hug, or a shake of a hand. No one was fake, and if someone had a problem with anyone else, they found a way to take care of it and just let it be done. Keep your guard up, though. If you had a problem, just let it be done. That's how it should be. Be real but kind. The Count was outside with his son Elmo. They were playing catch in the yard. Now understand, as good things are in Sesame Street community, they aren't perfect. As you would hopefully, and I would suppose obviously assume, the Count got his name because he was good at math. The Count's wife, about a year ago, who was also Elmo's mother, died. She had pancreatic cancer. The S Street Hospital didn't have much to offer, and they didn't have the technology to help her. Which really isn't much of a hospital, if you ask me. The Count didn't have the money to send her elsewhere. His wife, Ariel, had been a stay-at-home mom, and his landscaping business at the time had been struggling. He dumped the business adventure and took a job at a nuclear plant 20 miles away. That had been built near the city of Clarkington to pay for the funeral costs and be able to support Elmo and himself. She had been beautiful. She had wavy auburn hair running down her back. She had the greenest eyes that were almost impossible to look away from once you saw them. She was brilliant. She could figure out a way to deal with just about any problem, or at least support someone emotionally who needed it if she couldn't find a way to physically help. Actually, I'm going to read chapter 2 because chapter 2 is like a paragraph long. So, Elmo got his pajamas on and climbed into his little red race car bed. I'm going to improvise the voices here. I'm not a good voice impersonator. Daddy! 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 Okay. Daddy! I'm here in the bed. Okay, son. He replied. On my way. Will you sing to me, Daddy? Elmo asked. Of course, son. I love you. You love me. We're a happy family. Ha ha ha. It's been a while since I've tried that voice, so I'm not that good at it. He sang this over and over until Elmo finally fell asleep. Chapter 3, Another Day. Wake up, son. We have 30 minutes before we have to be to work. Remember, it's Bring Your Child to Work Day, so you're going with me today, said the Count, as he was in the kitchen finishing up some bacon and eggs. Elmo came down and ate breakfast with his dad. He was ready and dressed, in the red shorts and the red shirt and the white shoes the Count had left out for him the night before. We have 15 minutes left, Dad, said Elmo. I could tell by the clock, the new clock you bought for me that's in my bathroom. Thank you for that, Dad. You're welcome, son. I love you, Dad. I love you too. Skip over. When they got to work, the Count went to go talk to his boss. His name was Frank, but everyone called him the Grouch because he was a former alcoholic and always used to have a bad temper. But he'd been going to AA to help with this. I'm going to be skipping around in this chapter right here, so not everything I read is going to be consistent straight down with everything else. The Grouch had an adopted son they brought to work with him, named Grover. Now, Elmo didn't really like Grover, but he was one of the only 2 other kids there that he could go play with. Grover was alright, but he was a little obnoxious. He was always trying to do little tricks and trying to force everybody else to watch him. He really liked doing front flips. Elmo didn't like watching Grover doing front flips. Because every time he did, Grover would either crash into something or fall down and cry about it. Elmo thought that Grover was a little bitch. At least that's what he thought in his mind. Well, just as luck would have it, as Elmo was walking in the door, he saw Grover and another kid whose name he did not know, but she was blue. She had wings. She was new to the group, and Elmo didn't really know her, and he didn't know who her parents were, but he was nice to her, and she was friendly. A little ditzy, and Elmo suspected, being mature for his age, that her parents had done drugs while her mom was pregnant with her, because she always pretended to be a little fairy. But maybe it was just her imagination. But when he walked in, Grover said, "Now that everybody's here, we can get on with the show." And there was a short hallway connected to the room they were in. Elmo thought to himself, "Oh, goddamn." Which is something he heard his father say when he looked at the bills when he thought Elmo was asleep. Grover said, "I'm going to do one of my famous front flips for y'all today." He said, "Alright." And Grover backed up to the end of the room, even with the little section of hallway, and he started to run. Elmo noticed there was a little trash can at the entrance of the hallway. "Oh no," thought Elmo. "He's gonna hurt himself and cry." But he didn't say a word. Grover got a running start and started to jump over the trash can, hooking his foot and landing right on his goddamn face. Grover let out a moan. Elmo ran over. In ran the Grouch, thinking he was going to be hurt. But Grover stood right up. Acted like he was fine until he rubbed his face. Blood pouring right out of his fucking nose. Grouch said, "God damn it, Grover. What did I tell you about horse playing in the plant? Now you broke your goddamn nose and we don't even have an HR person. I'll be damn lucky if someone doesn't call child services on me. I'm sorry, Daddy. Grover grumbled through a broken nose, trying to spit out his blood. I didn't mean to. And right then, not out of pain, but what he presumed was fear mixed with comfort that his dad was there, Grover started crying. But he didn't think that Grover was a bitch. I mean, he really shouldn't have anyway, but he thought, wow, Grover really toughed this one out. What'll happen next time? Who knows? Maybe the video will be a little shorter next time. But this video and this story will be updated next time, and maybe we'll get a little more out of it. Something a little bit better and more consistent.